Yo, what is up everyone? Back here with another video. In today's video, we are going to be breaking down a Pokemon that I find is really interesting in this metagame, and I actually think is probably the best doubles Pokemon that's ever come out. And I don't say that lightly because I think that there are obviously a lot of contenders for number one in terms of a doubles Pokemon. But I think that Annihilape is definitely one of the front runners, and I think it's mostly because of its crazy move kit and like everything it has access to. It's just an incredibly strong Pokemon, and I've just like really grown to appreciate it over the time of like playing this format and seeing how it really functions. So, why is Annihilape so good, right? Annihilape has been a Pokemon that has existed for a long time, right? It has obviously, or existed for a long time in terms of like this gen, right? Like it's been around since the beginning of the gen. People have known that it has really good stats, but at first people didn't really realize how good it was, right? But it turns out that when you give a Pokemon a ghost fighting type, which is a crazy, crazy good offensive like coverage, right? You give it bulk up, you give it defiant, and then you also give it the best move in the game, which is Rage Fist. It gets pretty crazy. And the main reason why Rage Fist is so good is because it can just stack its base power up to 350 every time you get hit. It just is incredibly strong and really able to just disrupt the opponent's ability to deal damage to you. Because, and like the way I mean that is like, let's say that you have an opponent that's clicking Rock Slide into you, right? They actually might be dissuaded from clicking Rock Slide into your team, even if it's good into your partner, because it's boosting your Annihilate. And it really makes Annihilape like the center of attention during a game, which also can lead to you getting targeted more, which boosts your Rage Fist anyways, right? So there's just a lot of good utility that you can get out of Annihilape, and the amount of damage that it can deal is so ridiculous sometimes that it can just put out so much damage. And I really think that the Drain Punch Rage Fist set is just so oppressive. And like, you would just see these like moves and just be like, okay, you know, like it's definitely strong, but like what makes it really, really good? It was the combination of the typing, the move, and its stats. Like, look at these stats. This is ridiculous. I mean, its HP stats already so high that it can like give itself a ton of bulk, and its base defenses are actually really naturally strong. And considering that you're usually going to be running this with like a Grimmsnarl or something, let's say that you're running like a standard bulky spread, like you have some special defense, you have like attack, you know, like you have some defense, like you're gonna be pretty beefy, and you can still afford to be like pretty decently fast considering you're in like the middling speed tier in like the middle of the format. Not only that, but you have so much item customization with your Terra, right? If you're running Terra Water, you're running Lumberry. If you're running Terra Fire, you're running safety goggles so you can't get affected by Spore. You can also choose to run Terra Fire with Vital Spirit because Intimidate's not as common anyways, so you can't go to sleep, you can't be burned, and you also get Leftovers Recovery, which is insane. So there's just so much utility that this Mon gets out of both of its abilities. And on top of that too, it's just incredibly flexible, right? I think this Pokemon in general just has like a ton of potential, and it's definitely going to be explored more. And like, obviously too, it isn't a Pokemon that people have necessarily been neglecting. Like, it's already performed well at certain events and like certain tournaments. So and like, I just wanted to take a second to go over Rage Fist too. Like, just the fact that it's increasing by 50 base power every time it gets hit is ridiculous. And like, it also boosts it from allies. So typically you can just do some ridiculous strategies, like, and this is one of Annihilape's most common partners, Mouse Hold. And what you'll do is you'll just beat up into your own Annihilape and give it 4 boosts. And Rage Fist, since it caps out at 350 base power, you hit yourself 4 times, that's 250 base power. So you're still hitting incredibly hard. Like, you're not that far from the cap. You're 2 away from the cap. You get hit twice during your turn. Like, that's still boosting you a ton. And I think that honestly, like, just seeing that in general just shows you how absolutely strong like this combination is, and how like much customization you can get out of like Annihilate partners. Not to mention too, it's Terra. It's like one of the best Terra users in the game, at least defensive Terra users. And the Terra Fire is just so strong. Like, it covers your fairy weakness. It covers your, you know, most of your other weaknesses, at least makes them neutral. And on top of that, like, Terra Fire is really difficult to hit when you're running it on Annihilape, actually. And the ability to block like burns, the ability to block sleep with your ability is really crazy. And you're not even forced to just run Defiant. Like, you can actually run Vital Spirit. Not to mention that Annihilape having Defiant anyways was one of the big determiners of like why Intimidate has really fallen off. Along with that Clear Amulet, obviously, and a couple of other things. Just a lot of Pokemon being immune to Intimidate, but it really adds up, and it's kind of crazy, you know. It doesn't necessarily mean that Intimidate won't exist, but, you know, Annihilape has been a big determiner along with the other Inner Focus Defiant users as to why it's not necessarily as successful. So That's just really crazy as well too. I just wanted to highlight some like performances from Annihilape to show you guys like how well it's been performing. So in the Nino Pokebros Scarlet and Violet free for all 59, it ended up winning on a Aurora Veil team, which just shows how good it is with screens. It was just able to set up. Notably, it was running the Lumberry Terra Water set. I think that if it was edited or like updated for the current format, it would probably want to be something like I'd probably say it'd be like Terrifier with safety goggles, or like maybe Terrifier Vital Spirit with like leftovers. That would make it incredibly strong, right? It also really is like a good partner on these Aurora Veil teams because it's not getting chipped by hail or snow anymore, so it kind of works out well there as well too. You know, we see that Annihilape had a top 4 placement in the other Nino Pokebros tournament in free for all 60, which was a pretty decent placement as well. It was able to go and, you know, I would say did pretty significantly well. You know, was able to get what's it called, pretty high placement. It was running the leftovers Terrifier set, and it wasn't actually running safety goggles, so this one did not have any way to protect itself from sleep. But considering that you know, you had your own Amoonguss on the team and you probably had enough things to deal with it, it's fine. And you taunt Grim, but for the most part, right, I'd probably say safety goggles would be safer here, or Vital Spirit leftovers, right? And I've seen a lot of Annihilape shift to that. Then in the X9 League pop-up tournament 2, which had, I think, about 200 players. I'm gonna have to double check that. Yeah, it had, oh no, there was actually more than that. It had 208 players. It ended up getting a high placement in that tournament as well, getting a top 4 on Velocity's team, and it only took 1 loss, which was in Cut, and it was actually the Choice Scarf set. Now, I haven't talked about the Choice Scarf set much because between the Bulk Up set and the Choice Scarf set, the Bulk Up set's usually better. But Rage Fist does still have some utility on Choice Scarf. If you're like running a bulky Annihilape, you swap it in to take like some damage from like a hit, and then you just go for a really powerful Rage Fist and deal a bunch of damage. It's actually like really powerful, and you can take advantage of that with, you know, getting hit as you're entering on Scarf. I think Shadow Claw is really bad on Annihilape. You shouldn't be running that. And then finally too, you know, the Nino Pokebro Scarlet Violet free for all, you know, 61. Annihilape did end up placing, I believe, where was it? It didn't place as highly in this tournament, but I know there were a few. Yeah, there were a few in top 16. So on Semper's team, and then on Kraw's team. And I believe Kraw's team was using a normal Annihilape. Yep, it was using the Bulk Up Rage Fist Annihilape, and it had like the side beat up stuff that I was talking about. That's why I wanted to highlight it specifically, because I thought that that was a really interesting thing that I took advantage of, that's worth discussing. But yeah, I just want to talk about Annihilape. I thought it was an incredibly interesting Pokemon. I think it's really solid in this metagame, and it's something that I think you guys should definitely be keeping an eye out for. I think this will be my last video before next year, so hope you guys have a happy new year. Thank you so much for all the support on the channel. It means a ton, and I incredibly appreciate it. And I hope you guys all have like a really, really great New Year's, and just, you know, enjoy the time with the people around you who care about you most. As always, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.